Hello, welcome to the session on Design of Machine Elements 2, the subject code 18ME62 of VTU. In this module number 2, Design of Spur and Helical Gears. In today's session, I will explain the design procedure for the helical gears. Design procedure for helical gears. First step is to identify the weaker member between the pinion and the gear, as this procedure is similar to the one which we have used in spur gears. So if the material used for both pinion and gear are same, then the pinion will be the weaker member. If the material used for pinion and gear are different, then the strength factor sigma d into y is used to determine the weaker member, where y is the Lewis form factor. Now we need to find the strength factor sigma d into y for each of the gears. So the gear which is having lesser value of the strength factor will be the weaker member. So the design should be based on the one which is having the lesser value of the strength factor. So in the design of helical gears, table number 12.22 gives the values of the allowable static stress which we can use for the given set of materials. So suppose if the material is not given, then we can assume a suitable material from the table number 12.22. So the table number 12.22 gives us this allowable static stress for the design of the helical and herringbone gears. So here from this table we can get the elastic limit and the allowable static stress in meganewton per meter square. Now coming to the Lewis form factor, that is small y. So in helical gears, as we know, the Lewis form factor is based on the formative number of teeth or the virtual number of teeth, which is indicated by Z suffix E. So whatever the equations that we have from the design data handbook, that is, we are referring to the design data handbook by Mahadevan and Balavi Reddy, that is the 4th edition book. So here the equation number 12.5c, 12.5d and 12.5e respectively are given for the 14.5 degree involute system, 20 degree full depth involute system and 20 degree stub teeth system, in which in place of Z we have to substitute the ZE, that is the virtual number of teeth for the helical gear. So this is the difference between the Lewis form factor for the spur gear and the Lewis form factor for the helical gear. So in the denominator we are going to replace Z by ZE. So where the expression for ZE is given by Z divided by cos cube beta, where Z stands for the actual number of teeth. Coming to the strength check, we can also form a table like this. So in order to decide which one is the weaker member, so here the particulars for the pinion and the gear, that is the values of the stress, Lewis form factor and the strength factors can be tabulated, and whichever the gear is weaker can be shown in the remarks column. Coming to the next step is to find the module. The equation is same, the equation number 12.7a for the tangential tooth load, which is given by 1000 P into CS divided by V, and here CS is the service factor which we can take from the table number 12.8 depending upon the service conditions, and V is the pitch line velocity. The Lewis equation for helical gears is given by the equation number 12.24a is one of the equations, that is Ft is equal to sigma d Cv b capital Y into Mn divided by Cw, where capital Y is pi into Y, this is a form factor, and Mn is nothing but the normal module, and Cw refers to the wear and lubrication factor which is used in the design of the helical gears. Next, this is the table that we refer to for finding out the service factor depending upon the service conditions. Then the value of Cv is given by these equations. Everywhere here should be Cv is equal to everywhere. So for helical gears, when the velocity is less than 5 meter per second, we can use this equation. For helical and herringbone gears, when the velocity is from 5 to 10 meter per second, we can use this equation, 6.1 by 6.1 plus v. And when the velocity is 10 to 20 meter per second, it's called Bart's formula, we can use this equation. And for precision gears with velocity greater than 20 meter per second, we can use this equation. So these are the values of the velocity factor which we can take, which is there in the design data handbook also. Coming to the phase width, it is given by the equation B is equal to 12.5 Mn to 20 Mn, where Mn refers to the normal module. It's given by equation number 12.23 F. So from this we can take in between this range the value of the phase width. So next, wear and lubrication factor is given in the table number 12.21. So value of which we can take from the table, and then we have to find out the normal module Mn. So we have to select the standard module Mn from the table number 12.2. Is nothing but the same table which you have used for the spur gears. Then we have to find out all the parameters, that is the pitch circle diameters and the phase width. So then in helical gears we have to check for the phase width. With the minimum value of the phase width according to the AGMA is given, this B is equal to 1.15 pi into Mn over sin beta. So this we can just check, it's there in the design data handbook. You can just check for this using the value of the helix angle and the normal module. Then the tangential tooth load we have to find out, that is Ft. So the wear and lubrication factor Cw, so we have these three different types of different values. So first of all, for enclosed gears continuously lubricated with the oil of proper viscosity and character, that is 1.15. For scant lubrication but regular frequent inspection we have 1.25, but for indifferent lubrication we have 1.35. So the value is increasing. So from this we have to assume. Next, the module standard module table, that is table number 12.2, is the same as I said for the spur gears and helical gears, but here in case of the helical gears we can see the as well as herringbone or double helical gears, the modules represent the normal modules, and as already stated, the modules within the brackets are of second preference. So as far as possible we need to go for the first column, that is a preferred one. Next we need to check for the stress. Is the same step as we have done in the case of spur gears. The allowable stress we need to find out. We need to multiply the whatever the static stress we have by the velocity factor. Induced stress can be found from the Lewis equation. We need to replace the sigma d into Cv by sigma induced. So that time we can find out the induced stress, and we can check whether the design is safe or not. If the induced stress is less than the allowable stress, the design is safe. Next, to find the dynamic load, we have the equation for helical gears, that is equation number 12.26a. is Fd is equal to Ft plus K3V into Cv cos square beta plus Ft into cos beta whole divided by K3V plus square root of Cv cos square beta plus Ft. So here this is with some small difference between the spur and helical case in the equation for dynamic load. Here we have cos square beta term, and so the parameters are same as noted in the case of spur case. Now we need to find the error before finding out the dynamic factor capital C, for which we can follow the same procedure what we have followed for the case of spur case, that is by using table number 12.13 and table number 12.14. Using this table we can find the value of the dynamic factor C depending upon the error what we get. And these are the tables for finding out the error. Next, to find the wear load, we have the equation number 12.26c for the case of helical gauge. This is a different equation than when you compare with the spur gauge. So Fw is equal to d1 bqk is what we had in the case of spur gauge, but here you have d1 bqk over cos square beta. This particular term should be greater than the dynamic load Fd for the design to be safe. So where the terminology is same as in the case of spur gauge, except here we have beta, which is nothing but the helix angle for the helical gauge, and K is the load stress factor, alpha is the pressure angle. So we can refer to the tables for finding out the load stress factor K, and we have one more table 12.15 which gives the value of the endurance limit for checking the beam strength of the teeth. So for the design to be safe, the wear load should be greater than the dynamic load. From this table 12.16 we can find out the value of the K for the given pair of materials as well as the endurance limit.